Welcome to another episode of the Fearlessly Curious podcast. Super excited, super fangirling, all the way from snowy because I can't remember exactly which part of the UK. Leah Tenner. Leah, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. And it's Manchester, very, very snowy here.
Manchester. Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to ask the question that all Mancunians or anyone who, and you're not Mancunian, are you? Are you a Mancunian?
So my dad's from up around here, but I grew up in the south and I've sort of come back to my roots by coming north.
Okay.
So not technically, and I don't sound like it.
No, you don't. You give me a perfect reason for me to completely code switch into my British accent because I lived there for half of my life, which I love. But enough about me. Manchester, because I am originally from Malaysia, that's where I'm born and bred. Malaysians are crazy about footy and crazy about one particular Manchester football team. Do you have a preference of which football team? Are we talking?
Yeah, well, my son made the choice when we moved up here and he went red. So we are Manchester United fans.
Is the correct answer?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. So I'm as I said, I'm super excited to have you on the podcast, and we are going to get fearlessly curious with you. I'm just going to let everybody know how I know you. I know you from LinkedIn, and anybody wants to know more about why Leah is known for LinkedIn, you can find out yourself. She'll touch a little bit on. I'm going to ask Leah to mention a little bit, like were you known for in LinkedIn, but more importantly, where you're going next, what 2025 is holding for you. So why LinkedIn, first of all, Leah, if you could just,
LinkedIn was a last resort, if I'm totally honest. I was in a position where I had a very small business. I had a young son at home and I'm a solo parent to him, always have been, probably always will be. And I had no marketing budget and no way of getting more clients because I'd always worked with word of mouth referrals up until that point. I've been running my business for about 8 years and never had to do any marketing, which was great. And I'm, really grateful for that. But I wanted to grow the business and I wanted to get like better quality clients and more specific industry clients. And I thought, I have no idea how to do this. Kept getting those LinkedIn emails about people viewing my profile. And I went, I wonder, and went onto LinkedIn and absolutely hated it and felt completely like a fish out of water. I didn't look like anybody else there. I didn't sound like anybody else there. I was just like full on imposter syndrome. Like, God, I've just got a little typing business. I'm a single mom. Who's going to listen to me? I don't know anything about this corporate professional world, but I didn't have many other options. So I just kind of figured out how I could make it work for me and decided to have fun with it rather than just try and be like everybody else. I was just going to make it fun for myself. So even if it didn't work, at least I was enjoying it. But it did work, but quite a massive scale very quickly.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it was working, like doing it.
And then you built a training.
Yeah. 6 months after I'd started using LinkedIn, COVID hit, which affected my transcription business. My clients couldn't see their clients, weren't generating any work for me. And by that point, I'd gone from just me to me plus a team of 5 people helping me with my transcription. And I've had over 100 inbound clients from LinkedIn the first 6 months. Yeah, it happened really, really fast. I'd grown a massive following really organically and without really meaning to. I was just sharing my thoughts and writing humorous off the wall posts, being quite authentic and sharing stories about my life as a single parent, traveling, business struggles, funny things that happened in business, all sorts of stuff. And so many people were saying to me, like, how are you getting all this business from LinkedIn? Like, how are you doing it? And so when COVID sort of ripped the rug out from underneath my business, I had not many other options. It's like, well, what am I good at? Oh, well, I'm good at LinkedIn because people keep asking me how to get better at LinkedIn. So I started showing people how I was doing it and how to make it work for them. And it was really effective and word spread quickly. And so I started booking out one-to-one training with people.
Amazing. And you have a massive following on LinkedIn. You have built an incredible community from those trainings. And the most exciting thing, I guess, most recently for you is 2 things, I imagine. One, which was bringing that to a close. And I was privileged enough to be able to attend your very last live LinkedIn masterclass.
Yeah, that was emotional.
I'm a huge fangirl, so I was so happy to be able to make that live. And one of the main reasons actually, Leah, that I loved you on LinkedIn is that authenticity you speak about. You know, you don't, I saw a piece of me in you. That's what I related to it. I
Oh, I love
completely, you
that.
know, it's like just not feeling like I fit in on LinkedIn. And I moved from Instagram over to LinkedIn. And I'm like, wow, not only is she freaking cool, but she, I talk about being myself, but you, and I try my best to be myself, and that sounds kind of weird, but you were like making it look so easy and seamless. And it was very, very magnetic. And I love how you combine sort of having a very professional outlook, right? But just it's putting this humor in it, which
Yeah.
really does make it relatable. Everybody talks about being relatable, but just really with such a breath of fresh air. And one of the biggest things that I loved is that you said for your community, the HOLT, which I'm going to ask you what that stands for, is that sign behind you. I believe that is a no
No knobs.
knobs sign. That's one of the taglines of the HOLT, which is the amazing community which is a community for business entrepreneurs, the small businesses and entrepreneurs, which I absolutely love. Could you tell us a bit more about the HOLT?
Yeah, so one of the things I noticed when I was doing lots of LinkedIn training is I was working one-to-one with a lot of people, and there was a real lack of knowledge around marketing, particularly. So it wasn't just they needed help with LinkedIn, marketing as a whole. They didn't understand sales, they didn't understand other social media platforms, they didn't understand about lead magnets and email marketing. And it was all stuff that I didn't understand about when I first started. I hadn't got a clue. No clue whatsoever. I didn't know how to build an email list. I didn't know how to make a landing page. I had no clue really what my website needed. And I realized that there was all these people making money off of courses, and a lot of these courses are shit, quite frankly.
Mm.
Like, you pay $400-500 for a course where you get maybe 30 minutes of value and the rest of it's fluff and padding. But you have no idea, because they're so good at selling it, that you don't know how rubbish it is until you've spent the money.
Yeah.
And there was this huge lack of skills, because people come into owning a business because they're good at the thing that they sell. So they're a really great coach, or they're really good at hypnotherapy, or they're really good at helping you to lose weight, whatever it might be. But they don't know all of the other bits, all of the other hats that you have to wear as a solo business owner. And I was like, well, hold on a minute. I've got all of this huge network of amazing professionals that are constantly asking me to be on their podcast, present to their community, do them a favor, offer them some advice. I was like, all these people owe me a favor, or they want to get in front of my network.
Yeah.
And I've got all of these people in my network that need the skills of these people that want to associate with my brand. So why don't I put these two things together and give the small business owners who need the skills access to the experts that want my audience, and charge them a low monthly fee, which is totally affordable when you're right at the beginning of your business, to learn the skills that you need and know that you're getting good experts that aren't just going to be filling that out fluff.
Yeah.
And so the idea sort of formulated in my brain over about 12 months. And I felt quite nervous about doing it, because I thought, there's one thing having a following on the internet, but it's quite another thing monetizing it and getting them to trust me to provide an actual community. So I thought, I'll give it a go for a year, see if it works out. And we're now 2.5 years in, we're at nearly 600 members. And
Fantastic.
we've taken it beyond what I initially expected it to be. Like, we're doing in-person networking events. We've got a product line coming, 'cause people want to wear the brand. They love it that much, which is wild. We've got like a light membership where you just get access to the masterclasses for the people that really don't have the time or the money to pay for the full community. I say can't afford like £65 a month. It's not a lot for what we've just put the price up a little bit. But we do, like, one of the things that came out was that people were lonely and they wanted that, like, accountability. They wanted to have conversations. So we started doing community calls once a week where people can drop in and meet one another. We're just introducing like body doubling sessions next week, which are just like silent co-working sessions where you set your targets for the 2 hours in the chat, and then at the end we just go around and say who's managed to get what done. So
Is
it's
that
like
like an
that.
online sort of co-working
Yeah,
co-working
literally
space?
just log into the Zoom, have it on your screen. You don't even need the camera on. You say what you're going to achieve in that 2 hours. And then at the end of the 2 hours, we all have to come up on audio or video and say, yeah, we managed to get done. So it's like that accountability, productivity session. We've got a wellbeing clinic. We've got
Yeah.
a LinkedIn clinic that I host. We've got a tech clinic. So rather than having to pay like a tech expert hundreds of pounds to fix a tiny problem because
Mm.
they've got like a hourly fee, you just drop into our tech clinic and our tech person will fix it for you as part of your membership fee. So it's like all these things that have come about and it's grown. And I've been just listening to what the community want and going, okay, how can I accommodate that? And it's been a massive learning curve for me. But what we've created is something that's so valuable that our best marketers are our own members now. And
Yeah.
that feels like the luckiest place ever to be. It is that our members love it so much that they want to tell their friends about it without like us having to do. We do obviously do a lot of
Yeah.
PR and promotion for it, but being in that position,
All these ambassadors, you basically got, even if it was, like even if it was 10% of your 600, there's like 60 ambassadors out there talking about the whole. And I'm definitely, I mean, I love that the community. I don't get to go in as much as I would like. And even then, I've got to be very honest, it's so rich with resources, right? And so rich with information and people who just genuinely want to help each other. It is
yeah,
incredible. So if any of you watching, you've not heard of the HOLT and you're curious, it's a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer for me actually to join. And even though, like I
yeah.
said, I don't get to go in that often. I just this,
It's hard because of your time zones, isn't it? Like
yeah,
we are a community, which I love, but
yeah,
we can't cater to all time zones. And so if you are in like the East Coast of America and you're what, like
yeah,
8 or 9 hours behind us, or if you're in Australia where you're 11 hours behind us or ahead of us, it's really tricky. You can still access all the masterclasses and go
that's
into all
it.
the chat channels. You'll get answers to your questions, but
Yeah,
we can't have masterclasses on at like 1 a.m. my time because we don't have enough members. I think if we had enough members in Australia and New Zealand, we'd probably bring
we
in
could.
experts in those regions to
Yeah.
specifically do masterclasses for their clients. But we're not at that point yet. We've only got a handful of members in Australasia.
But you know what? That's exactly my point. It's okay, it's fine because like for me, I still want to be a member of the HOLT because I know there's a wealth of resources there. Like I need anything. And even though I can't make some of those live sessions, if I have any questions to ask, like the tech, they're there for me,
Yeah,
and it's a
yeah.
beautiful
You can still ask into
support.
the channel and they'll solve it for you. So
Exactly. Exactly. And just that community, that sense of community, so many of us now are working online, so to have that online community is super, super powerful. So I'm a proud member of
yeah,
the HOLT. And you mentioned about the vault, you mentioned the difference of the vault. So is that literally just
yeah.
basically all the resources are available to the members, but they just don't have access to the live sessions?
Yeah, so one of the things that we heard from people when they were like leaving the whole was that they just don't have time for the community. And I said, it's really valuable, it's amazing, but we don't have time for the community and we feel like we're paying for something that we're not getting the benefit from. And so I thought, well, hold on a minute. If we've got people leaving that don't have time for the chat and the live stuff, why don't we just duplicate the library of resources that we've got, create another membership where there's no chat, there's no live clinics, there's none of that. But every single masterclass we've ever hosted, which is like drawing close to 150 now, that's all in there. So they only pay £20 a month for that. So you think about it, there's less than a gym membership at most
Yeah.
gyms, and you have access to 150 different experts on every business skill that you could need right at your fingertips. So you're thinking about going into starting email marketing, right? Go and watch the masterclass on 10 ways to create a killer newsletter and setting up your landing page and automation and how to do a great welcome sequence. So
It's all
you
there.
can literally learn all three, and there's 3 hours of masterclasses, and you've not had to pay what $500 for or maybe more to learn 3 different courses. And
Yeah.
you know the experts to go to because they've hosted the masterclass. If you want to go a bit more in depth, you know that actually maybe that person did a great masterclass. I'll go and buy their course because I know that they actually do great stuff now, and I feel
Yeah.
like I could. And also for the masterclass hosts, they're getting potentially a future customer,
Yeah.
which happens a lot, which really motivates people to want to deliver a masterclass for us. So
Yeah.
everybody wins.
It's
And
a
I think, I feel
win-win
like I've
situation.
just hit gold with it, that you go, hold on a minute, the masterclass hosts win, the members win, they're learning something, getting better at it, improving their business, making more money. Then they're going to promote this person and hopefully hire this person in the future. And it's working that way. And I, it,
And it's a
it
win for
does.
everybody, and the sense of fulfillment for you must be incredible because you're connecting the dots,
Yeah,
right?
hugely. Yeah, it massively. And for our external masterclass hosts as well. So when we bring in people that aren't already members, we pay them £100, but we
Okay.
give them the option of taking £100 themselves or donating it to a charity of their choice. And the vast majority of select to donate it to a charity. So even better, we are compensating people, but more often than not, the charity benefits as well.
Gets
So it's
benefit.
like hit the trifecta. Everybody
Yeah.
wins, and they're going, bloody hell, no, this is great.
And that's something else that I also admire of you is your commitment to giving back to community, not just, I mean, this is a way that you're giving back already, even though it's a paid membership, you are giving back. You're tapping in, you're remembering how difficult it was when you first started. You've built a network and you're leveraging on that network to help other people because you could charge more. And there's nothing wrong with
Yeah,
money. We all need money, but you're really thinking
yeah.
about how to maximize and make it sustainable and broad. But going back
I
to the
think,
fact that you give back to community as well. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, like so when I was doing the LinkedIn training, it started off very affordable. And then because the demand was so much, I sort of moved to high ticket, and I was following what everybody on LinkedIn is saying, if you're in demand, if you're creating all this value, you need to charge more. And so when I had finished, it was nearly 3 grand to £3,000 to spend 3 hours working with me, which I was like, oh my God, that's outrageous. That's like double what I used to make in an entire month of working like 60 hours a week. So I was like, this feels audacious.
Yeah.
And while it was exciting that people would pay that, it didn't feel good inside me, like in my soul. It didn't feel good. And it felt unaligned. And the reason for that is because I was helping people that in the majority could afford. That
Yeah.
was like, it was easy.
Nothing
It was
for them.
easy
Yeah.
money. And it was, don't get me wrong, like I'm not that person that's like, oh no, poor me, I'm earning all of this money. Like that's not, but it didn't feel good inside me. I was earning more than I possibly needed, which is I was in a very privileged position, but I wanted to help the people that needed the help more
The
at the
most.
beginning of the journey. That felt better to me. So when I was working, when I started the whole, it was £50 a month. I was like, every small business owner can afford £50 a month because what you're saving by not needing to buy all these other resources. So really it's a no-brainer that you can learn all of this stuff that you need to know, and it's actually costing you less than one course. So, but that feels more aligned with me because I'm helping the people that I was 5 years ago and
Yeah.
people that are on my level. There's people that are earning millions that are in the hole as well. Like that we have a really, really big range, but it just feels more aligned to me to be able to offer something lower, lower cost to people that really need it than high cost to people that, they'll benefit from it, but,
Sure.
but it's not like it's going to change their life kind of
A-
situation. It feels better to me to be able to give people something that feels like they're going to change their life and not a life changing amount of money.
And
And
that's alignment. That's exactly what alignment
yeah,
is about, a feeling and what gives you fulfillment, right? I mean, at the end of the day, and you have fun with it.
yeah,
You're in the
yeah.
community. I see you. You're
Oh yeah, it
commenting. You're
brings me
there.
joy. Like,
It's like you.
yes,
It's all you. I mean, of course, you've got an amazing team, but you're very present there. It's not like a lot of communities where they grow, they hire a team, and then it's like crickets from the founder. Every now and then they drop
yeah.
in.
Like I can't promise that I'm going to always be as involved as I am now, because obviously one of the goals for me is to work less. But the thing is,
Okay,
being in the whole beach doesn't feel like work for me, and I can't envisage a day where I'm not like wanting to hop in
be
and
there.
see what's going on. Because I built the community I wanted, and I built the community that
Mm.
I needed as that solo mum sat at home lonely, isolated during COVID with a small child and no one to talk to. I spent hours on places like Clubhouse just to feel like I was having conversations with other adult humans
Yeah.
rather than a burbling toddler all the time who was loving pieces. But I wanted to actually have an intellectual conversation. So I would go places like that and I was like, right, what did I enjoy about Clubhouse? What do I enjoy about LinkedIn? What do I hate about these places? Let's make sure that that isn't included in it. And so
Mm.
I built the community that and I'm continuing to build a community that I needed and that I wanted. And it's attracting people that need and want the same thing. And so those people are like, I have stuff in common with those people. So why wouldn't I want to spend time with them?
Yeah. So you were on Clubhouse. I think that's the first time I heard you
Yeah.
now that I'm remembering back, because I loved Clubhouse. Well,
Yeah.
we kind of didn't have a choice, did we? There was nothing else to do, nowhere else to go, and actually no one to speak
Mhm.
to. So like you said, it was a fantastic opportunity to kind of meet people and talk to people. Such an
Yeah. It
incredible
was a lot of
place. And I kind of want to sort of transition now, sort of go across now to kind of more personal stuff. Okay, so we talked about the business, we talked about how you started, how
fun.
you grew your business on LinkedIn, then you pivoted, you shifted to community building, and now you have kind of two communities per se, and that's going to be your focus, right? From 2025 onwards.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and you said
Yeah.
your goal is to work less, which in actual fact sounds like you're kind of already doing that, because when you do what you love, it doesn't feel like work. I'm going to ask, what's your biggest vision for this community? Where do you see it going? Where do you want to see it going? You're on 600 members now. Do you have
Do you know,
what's the vision?
I really struggle with this question because I
Okay.
don't know yet. My next goal is to get us up to 800 members by the end of this year. I'd love to see that, but we're really strict on how we grow it. We only allow 25 new members per launch, which we do once a month, because we don't want to overwhelm existing members. And it's not like a big scarcity tactic. It's literally, we want to grow it gradually, and we let like referrals in, we drip feed things in. But I don't know. Like lots of people have suggested like franchising it, and I'm like, oh, don't know, like
Mm.
that's a risk with quality control,
Mm.
and it could lose the magic. And then I think for me, I do like the idea of having like local factions
Mhm.
of the Holt. So we'd have like a main community where all of the questions in the masterclass are hosted, but then like regional offshoots across the UK and then maybe in different countries where they've got access to everybody in the main community, but also local people, so that we can set up partnerships with local co-working spaces where members can all go and meet on a set time of like set day of the week every week. Like big picture, I really like the idea of that. And
Okay.
maybe that would be like a premium membership that if they wanted that included, they would pay extra. But there's lots of different options. And I think so far in business, winging it and seeing where it leads has done me very well. I know
Throwing
that doesn't
spaghetti
work
on the
very
wall,
well.
see if it sticks.
Yeah, and like try new things, see how it works, see what the community wants. We're definitely going to be doing more in-person events this year in the UK because the majority of our members are based in the UK. We do have lots of them. We've got about 200 members, sort of Europe and the rest of the world, about 400 in the UK. So we're going to
Okay.
be bringing in more in-person stuff. I
You
think
definitely
it's
got one
just
from Malaysia, so I'll fly the
Yeah,
flag.
we
And
did have 2 from Malaysia actually, but
it,
unfortunately he left because it just wasn't aligned with what he was doing
yeah,
next.
well,
We did have
I
2.
hold that seat
Yeah.
proudly for now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I love I had the privilege of attending one of your in person events, and I was actually through good old Chris James, because
Yes.
I was part of C2C, and I was there with him, and I got into your Christmas
It was a
party, and
Manchester party, wasn't it, in the summer?
yes, it
Was it the
was.
summer? Yeah.
It was in
Yeah.
Manchester, yeah. And I missed this year's
Yeah.
Christmas party. I mean, last year, that would be 2024. But
Yeah.
I aim to be there for this year, 2025, because I aim to be in the UK for Christmas this year, or
Amazing.
December, November, December. So I'm hoping that I'll catch it.
I will I think we're gonna have to try and just like get a date locked in fairly soon so that people can just make sure it's like
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Me, definitely. And I'm just having a total brain fart moment, because I knew what I want to ask,
Oh, yeah.
and it's totally, did you ever imagine, okay, did you know you were going to be a community leader? I mean, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, community builder rather, if someone had said to you, by the way, I can see the future, and in 15 years, you are going to be this incredible community builder and have this powerful community for small business owners and entrepreneurs, and you're going to start your own podcast, what would your response
Mm.
have been? What would have been your response to that person?
I think at that point in my life, I was spending most of my weekends getting absolutely hammered at
Okay.
nightclubs and house parties and strip clubs and waking up
Ooh.
on the beach in Brighton. So if you'd told me then that I would be doing this now and as a solo parent, no, I wouldn't have believed you in a million years because I was still working. I hadn't even started my first business at that point. I was just working as like a secretary in an office for a construction company. Like
Okay.
I wouldn't have even 10 years ago when just before my son was, I was struggling to make ends meet,
Right.
working crazy hours, doing a job that was unbelievably boring. But I thought that's all I was good at. Like, because I grew up in, my teachers were just like, you get a job, you finish school, you do your 2 years of college, you go to university, you get a job, you work for somebody else until you retire, then you die.
Oh,
And that was just the path everybody's
that's
on.
is that the dream then?
What it's just the thing that they
The
talk
cookie
about, isn't
cutter.
it? At school,
Yeah.
there's no, we might start your own business. No one even suggested the idea of starting my own business. I didn't really know anyone that had started their own business. Like I wasn't around those people. My parents worked minimum wage jobs. My dad left the Navy and was a window cleaner until he passed away. Like there was no entrepreneurial spark in anyone in my family. It
Right.
wasn't something that I saw. So I just kind of assumed that was my path. And it wasn't till I worked for two guys who had this, it was building contractors that I worked for, and they both started the business when they were 27. And I think that was where I first sort of started thinking, like, they were 27 and they started their own business. And like, they're smart guys, but I was like, I think I'm as smart as these guys. Like, I could do something. And then
Yeah.
I started traveling. Traveling. My first solo trip to Thailand was where I went, I need to make more money because I'm not going to be able to afford to do this again. And I really want to travel more. So that was
Yeah.
where I first decided I would start like a side hustle to make a bit of extra. So
Okay.
no, there's no way even 10 years ago, you would have convinced me that this would be the path that I would be on, especially not like having loads of followers on the internet. Even now, it makes me uncomfortable and makes me cringe because I don't
See yourself
like
help.
being the center of attention. I like my privacy and I like,
Right.
I'm an introvert. I like being in my house. I don't like going out loads. So yeah, I think I still mentally struggle with so many people paying
Right.
attention to me. Like when I'm on my computer, it's like a whole other world. And I'm
Mm.
still the same person. But
Mm.
if you'd said to me, you're going to have like hundreds of thousands of followers online
Yeah.
and people will know your name in the street, I'd have gone, God, no, I'm never doing that.
And you know what
But
they say about never say never, right? I mean,
yeah,
hello from a fellow introvert over here. I definitely identify as an introvert too. But I
yeah.
know that you've also got yourself on stage at the comedy club, didn't you? Now that must have been
Oh, God, yeah.
quite what a challenge for yourself doing that as an introvert. And comedy, I mean, can you tell us a bit about
Was
that?
there thing? Yeah, it was Ian from Agency Hackers messaged me on LinkedIn with this really weird message, like as a proposal, and I was like, that sounds like a mad idea. But I
Yeah.
said, yeah,
I'll do it. I'll do it.
yeah. I said it straight away. I was like, sounds like something I'd give a go. So he called me and I was just like, yeah, I mean, I like to say yes to things before I can think them through too much because then I'll get scared and say no. That's how I ended up the bloody mountain at Kilimanjaro last year. I say yes first, and then I'm like, I'll figure it out.
Are you
And
as
so I
clear
just
about
thought,
your yes as are you as clear about your yeses as you are with your nos?
yeah, it's the
Okay.
gut thing. If my gut reaction is, yeah, do it, I'll do it. If my gut reaction is, don't do it,
I,
it's
I,
just a no.
I bet you're a manifesting generator in human design. Have you heard of human design? Are you a manifesting
Yeah,
generator?
we had a masterclass in the HOLT on human design with Julie Chiardi, and she made us do our human design.
Oh
And
my
yes,
God,
I
I've got
am.
to catch it because I'm a total human design nerd. I love human design.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what the numbers were, but
You've definitely
yeah,
got a
it was
three.
quite.
I think you've definitely got a three in your numbers.
No, it was either
or a
six,
six?
fours and twos, right? Yeah, I can't remember if it was a 4 and a 6 or 6 and a 4. She did
Okay.
me up. She does a podcast, so she asked me a load of questions, and then she analysed my human design on episode 2. So that's,
Okay.
yeah, it was an interesting podcast to do, actually. It's very interesting. Like, human design is really interesting. But yes, I'm very led with my gut on
Mhm.
pretty much everything except dating. I'm really not so good at listening to my gut when it comes to dating, but I'm getting better.
Well, you know what they say, well, in at least what I believe about human design is that the minute you know that you need to follow your authority, in your case, it's the gut, your sacral, right? You know that, then that's gonna put you in alignment. If you then you
Yeah.
consciously choose not to follow that, it's also for a reason. It's because
Yeah.
you're looking for the lesson, so to speak, the experience, which is also full of wisdom. But anyway,
Mhm.
coming back, and that's my brain now getting distracted. I can't remember what we're talking about because I'm just like, yeah, my God. Have you been on an ADHD podcast by any chance?
Well, other with other people that
With
have
other
it, yeah.
people? Yes,
Yeah, I don't
yes.
think I've been on any podcasts about ADHD. I think I'm a little bit, like, resistant to doing that because while I'm open about it, I
Yeah.
also don't be pigeonholed.
Oh, yeah, sure. Having said that, has it got in the way? Not that I'm pigeonholing you, but has your ADHD got in the way, as in because our world is not built. That's let
Mm.
me give you the context for that. Have you struggled in life, whether you were as a child growing up in school or even with business and even doing business with people because people didn't understand ADHD? Because that's something else that I really respect about you is that, at least on LinkedIn, I see you call people out in the
Mm.
best way, hold people accountable for their lack of knowledge, encourage them to do their research, like get better educated. In particular, there was someone who recently talked about being sick and tired of being called out for being along the lines of being a straight white man and the privilege of being a white man. I'm
Oh,
not going to
that
say
was
who
a
it was, but that
yeah.
feed went round, and but you wrote something, and I was kind of like yes, this is what the world is about. We it's not about shaming or guilting anybody for not knowing better. It's about knowing that we have a responsibility to know better, especially when someone gives us the opportunity to. So I've just gone around the houses. Let's go back to the ADHD. Has that got Yeah, how has the world
Um,
been for you in that sense?
I didn't know I had ADHD until a couple of years ago. Uh, and I only really learned about it because I saw other people talking about it and went, "Oh my God,
Mhm.
this would explain so much." So in hindsight, yeah, like looking back at my childhood, there was a lot of things that potentially could have been easier had I known. My hyperfixation when I was a kid was reading. And because I was a girl and because I would read, and I mean obsessively read, like I would have a book in my hand while I was crossing the road. I would sit in the playground and read a book. Like I would go through 10 books a week. My mum used to have to take me to the
Wow.
library and I would come away with like a stack of 10 books and we'd be back the next week. I was obsessive. I'd read all night with a torch under my duvet. Like I could not read enough. God knows how many thousands of books I must have gone through in my childhood, and I started reading from an early age. I was only about 4, I think, when I was
Were you
4.
Enid Blyton
Oh,
reader?
yeah. Yeah, Enid Blyton, all the Enid Blyton books, all of the Judy Blume books as I got
Oh,
a little bit
Judy
older,
Blume.
all of the point horrors and point romances, and, like, Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter I read as they were released, so
Uh-huh.
'cause I'm that era. Lord of the Rings, I think I read by the time I was my son's age, about 9, and I just would pore over anything I could get my hands on. So nobody really noticed,
Mhm.
and I was well behaved, and I think because I was well behaved, because I got good grades at school, because my hyperfixation with reading, no one ever really noticed about the things that I would struggle with. But I would struggle with things. I had like sensory issues. And then as I became a teenager, my behavior really spiraled. I struggled with insomnia. I struggled with my mental health, which was partly because of the grief of losing my father so young and other things that were going on in my life. But I really went off the rails in my teens.
Right.
People just put it down to like grief trauma, but actually it was my inability to like process my
Process.
emotions. So I struggled with like self-injury as well. And now I understand that I'm diagnosed with ADHD, but during my diagnosis for ADHD, they said there's a high chance that you're also autistic, because there's a lot of signs pointing towards autism within this diagnosis, and something called alexithymia, which is an inability or a difficulty with understanding and processing your emotions. So I'm not very good at processing my own emotions in the moment. I I like, someone dies, I don't cry about it,
Okay.
but I'll think back on it later and then have to analyze what I'm supposed to feel in that moment.
Mm.
So and it's a weird combination because I'm extremely empathetic, but I don't attach myself so much to
Emotions.
emotions. And it can sometimes make me seem cold, or I can be like overwhelmed with things that are happening. Last summer when I was dating someone, and there was a lot happening all in one go, and he was very full on, and I was like, I don't really know how I feel with this about this yet. So I just sort of went along with it. And then I had time to process when I had some time to myself, with actually
Okay.
this is all quite uncomfortable, and I'm not happy about this, but I can't do it like instantly.
Yeah.
And yet when I'm watching, say, a film or reading a book, I can feel those emotions because I'm being told through the words and the music how to feel about it. So I can then
Right.
so, like, if someone dies in a film, because I'm literally being guided into that emotion
Mm.
and told how I'm supposed to be feeling by all the things going on in that movie, I will have raw and real emotion. But someone says to me, "Your grandma's dead." I'm like, "Oh, that's
Mm.
that's sad," but I won't
Should
have
show it.
emotion
You won't.
because,
You won't. You
yeah,
won't
it's
sort of
really
connect
strange.
with the emotion in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird disconnect. And so there's all sorts of things where that's manifested over the years, and I didn't know that's what it was. I just felt weird,
Mm.
and I didn't know how to feel my feelings properly.
Yeah.
And now I'm just kind of comfortable with who I am, and I understand it so much better that I just go, well, I'm not weird. This is just how my brain works, and I accept it. And
Yeah.
now I understand how my brain works. I'm able to put things in place. So, like, someone sends me a load of forms to fill in for something, I'm like, I'm not doing that. Send it to my VA, and he'll just fill it all in for me, and I sign where I need to. I've got my house set up to lend itself to my brain. I know what helps me to focus better, and I create environments like that. I don't force myself to do things
Drain you.
that drain me. I like doing things that make me uncomfortable because I like to grow from them, like standing on stage and doing comedy. I was like, this is going to be scary, but I'll grow as a person, and I'll have had a richer experience in my life for doing it. I'm not going to make a habit of it. I'm not planning a career in stand up comedy, but I'd always look back and go, oh, I should have done that. Like, Robin Williams stood on that stage, and all of the legends of comedy have stood on that stage. Why would I say no to that? It's
Amazing.
just 20 minutes of feeling scared. And then I go, look at this thing I did.
Yeah.
So yeah, I understand and forgive myself more, and I'm
Yeah.
not hard on myself on the show. That's just me. Not like, I don't want to push my problems onto other people, and I'm not like making excuses for it, but I'm like, I know that I'm going to react this way. So therefore I can either make accommodations or not do it, or find someone else to help me to do it, rather than just like struggle and force myself,
Yeah.
uh, and create discomfort for everybody involved. So yeah, it's definitely it definitely makes parts of my life harder, but it's easier now that I know,
No.
because I can put things in place to help.
You've used it to kind of know yourself better, which is what I think like sort of this sort of diagnoses can do. And I love what you said earlier is that you don't, I mean, as much as you identify with ADHD in terms of the symptoms of it or the patterns of behavior that we label as ADHD, but you don't want to be labeled as it. I find that really powerful because that's a weird thing about humans, right? We all want a sense of belonging. We want to be identified with something because then it kind of validates who we are or the behavior that we
Yeah.
have, and it gives us a sense of belonging. But when we attach to the labels, they become limits, and then people perceive us, they pigeonhole us for it. So I really, I really love the way that you put that,
I
and I
find
think
it really strange as well. I love how labels can bring people together, because they can
yes,
find like and that really helped me to find other people to learn from about ADHD. But then I went to some like events that was specifically for people with ADHD,
yeah,
and I was like, this is not going to work. Because I like, some parts of my neurodiversity are really triggered by
Mm,
things that other neurodivergents do. So when I'm around someone who has absolutely zero sense of like personal space. I hate
Uh-huh.
that. That makes me so deeply uncomfortable, makes me want to immediately leave. Although
Run.
people that are a super extrovert ADHD make me recoil into myself because
Mm.
especially
It's
if
too
they
much for you.
feel like they know me, right? So it's like just because we both have ADHD doesn't mean we can both be friends. If we both got like ADHD that complements each other's ADHD, that's great. But just because do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like just
Yeah, I
because
do, yeah.
I'm a vegetarian doesn't mean I'm going to like every other vegetarian in the world.
No,
And
definitely not.
I think sometimes that makes me feel a little bit like I don't want to just be, and I don't just want to be an ADHD influencer. Like, find there's nothing wrong with it, but I find that people tend to make it such a huge part of their identity that they lose other parts. Do you know what I mean? Those
Yeah.
people that are so into CrossFit that their entire life is about CrossFit, or they're a vegan, so everything in their life is about being a vegan and it's all they talk about. There's nothing wrong with being passionate about something, but I don't want to be that one person that's pigeonholed into one thing. I'm not just
You're
sober. I'm not
you're not one
just
thing.
someone with ADHD. I'm so multifaceted. So I
Yeah.
try not to talk about any one of those things too much. Do
Okay.
you know what I mean?
I do. So we better move
Yeah.
on then. So, I mean, you've had such a colorful life. I mean, what you've shared with us so far, and you've shared, you've been on many podcasts. You as much as you are an introvert, you are very much out there. And of course, now you also have your own podcast. What's it called?
So it's alongside the whole brand. So it's called the HOLT Survival Guide for Small Businesses.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. And we've done season 1 so far, and we're starting to record season 2 next week.
Okay. And in that podcast, you feature experts.
So the first season was people that are in the membership,
Okay.
because we sort of had it as a bonus for people that signed up for a lifetime membership, which is only available to people that have like hit a few people. Basically, we did it as a limited run for a reward for loyalty for people who've been there for so long.
Mm,
The next
I love that.
season is a variety of people, but everybody's a small business owner with a varying degree of like how long they've been doing it and how much
Hmm.
success that they've reached, and understanding like what got them, why did they start their businesses? How are they running their businesses? The big lessons they've learned, the failures they faced. So it's kind of the antidote to all of these like super famous, really rich
Mm,
business tycoons, or, do you
who
know
are
that
already there,
in
like these
podcasts, it's
huge
always,
names.
yeah, two white men telling each other how great they are kind of thing. I want to talk to real people with really real experiences, which does include white men as well. Like it, but we've got a
Let's not
variety.
pigeonhole them now.
Yeah, it's I wanted to talk to people that are still on the journey, not people that have already reached that sort of pinnacle of success and are living the dream. I wanted to talk to the people who are still in the weeds, and because I think it's more relatable. I want to talk to people who are still going through those struggles, who are still learning the lessons, who are still feeling imposter syndrome every damn day. And
Yeah.
what are their coping mechanisms? And normalize the gritty reality of owning a small business or being a freelancer,
Yeah.
not the glamorized Instagram version of it.
Hmm. It's going to be different.
Yeah, season 2, we've got a real variety of people. We've got people that business isn't going so well. We've got one guy who's really successfully franchised his business. We've got someone who, just trying to think who the guests are. We've got a guest who's struggles with Tourette's and he's adopted it from boys. So he's a parent. He lives with Tourette's and he was told he was never going to work, and
Wow.
started his own business and is absolutely thriving. We've got a real variety we've got an introvert who runs a marketing networking business, which I really like as well, and another neurodiverse person. We've got a freelancer who's like the most no bullshit person you ever meet, which I really love. So it's a real variety of people, but they're all very much still running their businesses day to day, involved in it. Some have managed to create it so it suits their life. Some of them are still working towards that. Some of them are very much like, well, business was going well and now it's tanked. And here are
Mm,
things I'm doing to fix it. Because I think that's
that's
reality. And no one ever
yeah.
talks to those people. Everyone wants the big shiny, like
Yeah.
people at the finish line showing you what's possible. Like I want to show you the people that are still trying to figure out how it's possible.
Yeah.
because that's what where most of us are. Most of us don't reach
Yeah.
multi-billionaire status. So
And and
yeah, it's
and
the possible little guy.
so you're in the middle of recording season 2 right now, did you say?
Start next week.
So, oh, you start
Yeah,
next week. Okay.
yeah, starting
So
next week.
you better go check it out. It's all on YouTube. I love the shorts as well. Let me see. The Bolt, the Halt, the podcast. I keep skimming over. I keep wanting to get into, more about your life, and you've already shared quite a lot about it. I do want to ask, though, with all the different chapters in your life that you've navigated and the different businesses and the amazing ideas you've had, including being an idea of being a single parent was not what I meant to say. All the amazing business ideas you've had and the journey of becoming a single parent, and you've also shared about your son. I'd like for you to share with us, like, what is it that has got you through like the hardest moments? Is there any one thing or any sort of in your own personal toolkit that's really, when you look back now, that's got you through those really, really shit fuck days?
Now it's my son. He's the guiding light that makes it all worthwhile now. Before my son, it was my dad. So my dad passed away from cancer when I was 10. It was a long battle from when I was about 8 to 10. And he was only 41 when he died.
Gosh.
So he was really, really, really young. And I always felt, now I'm not religious in any way, shape, or form, but I, in my head, sort of imagine him sat on my shoulder going, you can do it. Like, you've got to do it. And I think I've always just been, when he passed away, so he was a window cleaner and he used to sort of go from house to house, having a cup of tea, whistling away, proper stereotypical window cleaner of the days of old. And when he passed away, the church was packed. Like, it was a big church and must have been 300 people there. And I sat at the front with my mum and my sister and sort of turned around. And I remember turning around and seeing this church that was absolutely packed. And I don't think I really registered at the time the significance of that moment. But when I look back on it, I remember thinking, if I can live a life where 300 people will mourn my passing and know that there will be a small gap in their life without me, then I've done a really good job. Like, even if I can get half that amount of people, the fact that he made that many people's lives a little bit better, a little bit happier, and that they were going to miss him, that is a life well lived. And he was a very poor man. He could barely read. Like, he left school at 15, barely ever went to school anyway. Grew up in like the back arse countryside of the north. And I just sort of thought, if a man like that can make this much impact on so many people with so little, then that's a good life. And so I think that's always just guided me. And it sounds so twee to say stuff like that, but I think
No, it
it
doesn't.
is. It's always like, would he be proud of me? Am I making an impact? Am I living my life to the full, that if I died at 41 as well, because that's next year for me, I turn 40 in spring. If
You're
I
40.
die at 40, yeah, it may, the Zoom filter, but thanks. And being single, I think that I never married. That's kept me young.
Sorry, I didn't mean to take away from what you were saying.
No,
Yeah.
but seriously, like, I've always lived, I think, with that kind of deadline in my head. Like, what if I don't live possible? Have I lived a life that's packed as much into it as possible? Have I said yes to the opportunities? Have I done loads of cool stuff with my son? Is he going to have enough amazing memories with me?
Yeah.
You never have memories of a passed away parent, but
No.
like, have I done my best? So that's good. That guides me and it keeps me going. And to see my son so happy every day, and the love that he has for me and that we have for each other, like, that now is my guiding light. And he's like a little piece of my dad still that looks
Oh my
back at
God.
me and goes, "You did a good job, Mum."
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. I mean, that's the legacy that your dad has left, right? And that keeps you going and inspires
Mm.
you. Well, who is it that said? Is it Maya Angelou who said, "It's not what you do. It's not people don't remember what you do or what you say. People remember how you made them feel." I mean,
Yeah,
obviously, 300 people, right, remembers this
yeah.
amazing man who whistled and was jolly and had cups of tea and cleaned their
And he
wobbles.
was
And
so
that's what
humble.
matters.
Like, honestly, a guy he was 5'6", 5 foot
Oh,
6, tiny little guy, and he honestly couldn't read. He could barely read anything. He could barely
Yeah.
write, and yet he would just hop in a van and take his ladders and bucket and go around, have a cup of tea. He was constantly coming home with pets, like unwanted pets from his customers. He'd just show up at home with a new rabbit and a guinea pig that some of the kids hadn't wanted, so we now have more guinea pig. Like, he was just a very simple man, but a good man, and I think, like, doing good doesn't have to be complicated, and
Mm.
I took that lesson from him, and it's weird because obviously I wasn't this 10-year-old having all this insight into looking at, my
Yeah.
dad's dead. Here's 10 lessons you can learn about life from the bar. But, like, I look back on it now and I think of all the lessons that I have taken from it, and I take those forward in how I show up in the world. So,
Yeah. I mean, because we don't actually learn from our parents and what they tell us. Because the truth, I think you'll agree with me, Leah, for sure. Whatever my parents tell me, I do the opposite. Because who likes being told what to do? But we
and
observe
for
them.
ADHD again,
Yeah.
demand wins.
We observe them, right? We observe how they behave. We observe the interactions. I mean, again, at the time, you're not 8 years old taking notes and at homework, observe mom and dad. But that's we're animals. We're still very much that sort of primal part of us. And that's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that about, this beautiful memory you have of your dad and his legacy and how he lives on what you said, that he lives on through your son. You see that in your son, that light of inspiration. It's very beautiful. I'm just going to ask one more thing about your dad, which is I mean, if you had to choose one thing that you love and miss the most about him, what would it be? What quality?
It's hard really because, like, I didn't know him that well. I was a daddy's girl, but I don't have a lot of memories. But I think one of the things that I inherited was the
Okay.
love of travel. So he was in the Navy and he went around the world twice, and he had a real thirst for adventure and doing things that made him happy. I think probably he had ADHD based on what I've been told about him. And he was quite, like, reckless and spontaneous and did not like authority at all. And I'm like, okay. Like, this is sounding quite familiar. But yeah, he was a big travel lover. And I think that's something that's definitely come out in my life. And he was also covered in tattoos, Navy tattoos. And I
Ah.
think part of why I started was a way to feel closer to him. Although my mum used to tell me that he did tattoos on women, so sorry, Dad. But I think my mum probably just told me that so that I wouldn't
You'd
get more
stop.
because she wasn't like very much. But yeah, it's I think I don't know what I think the thing that I miss is having that person to turn to go, "Dad, how do I do this?" Or,
Mm.
"Dad, I need to take the car to the garage." If they tell me this, look, I've had to find other people in my life to help me with that, and I've got an uncle nearby who's great, my dad's sister's husband, and he will sort of step in if ever I need things like that. But I've only just moved up here a couple of years ago, and I've really never had that in my adult life, so I'm kind of not used to asking for it. But
Sure.
it's like, even just having someone to help me put a shelf up, or the fence is broken and I'm not sure how to
Mm.
fix it. Dad, can you come and help me out? Or, Dad, what do you think of this guy I'm dating? Give me a male
Yeah.
perspective. Like, it's those moments that I think I just go, I've just never known what that's like to have, because
Yeah.
it's been so many,
Yes.
my entire adult life and most of my childhood without him. And even when he was there, in the years that I do remember, he was too poorly to really be involved father. He was, mum
Right.
was caring for at home. So yeah, I think that's the tough bit. It's not having that father role to turn to when you need a male perspective or the dad support that you miss. I always used to
Yeah.
think, if I ever did get married, and not having him talk me down the aisle, that sort of thing would be really sad. So probably won't
It
get married
is.
now, but it's fine.
Is mum still around?
Yeah, my mum lives like 6 hours drive from me, which is a bit of a
Okay.
pain. But
It's a
she
pain.
she remarried, and it's just a long old way. I see her that often, but we talk like multiple times a week on the phone. And she's happily married with a guy that she met that lives down in the southwest of England. And so she's living a little country lifestyle, and
Oh,
she loves
that's
it.
nice. She must be very proud of you.
Yeah. She's really proud of me. I don't think she really still quite understands
Sure.
what I do or why it makes the money it makes. But she is proud of me, yeah.
Who are you more like, you think? Mum or dad? Or do you think you're really a bit of
Oh, I definitely have both. I definitely have a bit of both, but I think my soul is more like my dad.
both?
Um, my mum is like Mrs. Play It Safe, never takes a risk, never. She's got not a single shred of sarcasm or sass in her. Bless her. Got a very childlike sense of humor and outlook on life, and it's super sweet. It's so wholesome. She's like the most wholesome person. Whereas I am like, I've got a filthy sense of humor. I've got a dirty laugh. I've got an absolute thrill-seeking nature. I'm very much like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go. I'm high as hell on edibles, but I'm going whitewater rafting down the Colorado River. Oh, let's go. Like that actually happened. So
Wow.
yeah,
That must have
I
been pretty thrilling.
it was a trip. It was a LinkedIn speaking event that I went to Denver,
And you did
and
edibles and did
and they're
it.
legal. Edibles are like
Yeah,
legal
of course.
there.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Good to
so I
mention
had
that. Good to mention that.
yeah. So I had some edibles, and I'm not like I don't smoke weed. I don't take drugs at all. So
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, fine, I'll have one. And I was like, I was not in a good way.
Oh, you weren't in a good way.
I was
You
not in a good
weren't in
way,
a good
and
way.
the altitude really screwed with me as well. So I was proper. I felt like I drunk a couple of bottles of wine,
Ah,
and they all wanted to go. And then a small group of us decided to go. There was another couple of people that are like have big online followings on LinkedIn, and they're like,
right.
"Should we go whitewater rafting?" I was like, and they said it's a 2-hour drive away. I was
But
like,
hang on a minute. Had
"That's
the
free.
edible
Why
kicked
not?"
in? Had it kicked in, yeah, the edible? And you still
Oh yeah,
said
they had.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And then I was sat there in like the wetsuit about to get on, and I was thinking, I don't think this is a good idea. I'm probably going to die. I think like this is real. And the guy I was with he's massive, like 6'5". He looks like Aquaman, like actual looks like Aquaman. And he's like, don't worry, I'll look after you. And I was like, okay. And I'm just sat there like trying to row and trying to like focus my eyes going, well, if I'm going to die, this is a good way to go. But
Wow.
yeah, we were fine. I didn't even fall in. So
So what's on your bucket list of crazy fun things to do, or do you not have one? You just live in the
oh no,
moment
I
all the
have,
time.
yeah, I have a
Have
really
you
long
bungee jumped?
I haven't bungee jumped, but I've skydived in New
Oh,
Zealand. They want to do
what walking?
wing
Wind
walking, where
wing walking
wing,
on the plane.
so they strap you onto a wing of a plane and then it flies. So I want to give that a go. Me and my son went zip lining and swimming through caves in Mexico last summer. That was amazing.
Same.
I really want to do like a race day. I think I'm going to do that this year. So I want to drive a fast car as fast as it goes. And I don't mean like a normal road car. I mean like
A proper.
proper racing. Yeah. So I don't know if I'll be allowed to do that, but it might have to be like I'm in a fast car going as fast as it can go. But I'm going to see about doing that.
Well, like
But
in
yeah, there's quite
Silverstone,
a
they
lot.
do those race days, don't they? In
Yeah.
Silverstone.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I'm going to try and do that one this year. I, I I don't know. It's constantly evolving. I'll like tick something off and then I'll get two more ideas. But yeah, I've done a
So
lot of the like,
so
a lot of.
bungee jumping is on the list or not?
I don't
No.
really. I'm not into the idea of bungee jumping. I don't really like the idea of like dangling at the end of it.
Oh,
Like I
okay.
like the jump. The skydive was brilliant fun, but I don't really like the whole just like dangling around. I don't want to
So
do that.
please don't do base jumping. Okay, that's a little bit
And
excessive.
yeah.
Scuba
I think
diving?
that I've actually swum with sharks. Yeah,
Ah,
I did. And I took Dexter with me, and we went paddling with sharks in Cape Verde. But they were friendly sharks, but they like swim all around your leg. It wasn't great because he sat on my shoulders and screamed the entire time because he was scared. Like an evil mug. He did calm down eventually. But yeah, we've done that one already.
so one more big question before we kind of wrap this up, which is I like to ask this question because we've been talking about labels and kind of fitting in and not fitting in and feeling awkward, like when we first mentioned about LinkedIn and being neurodivergent. Neurodivergent. What would you say are the kind of stereotypes you feel you've disrupted in kind of life in your journey so far? I mean, I'm kind of looking at you, and I think some people will be looking at you, and we're already judging because you know, inked girl, not quite as inked as you, but that might be one of them. Are there any others that, less obvious ones that you can think of?
I think there are stereotypes about single mothers, solo parents not being able to raise good, emotionally intelligent, well-adjusted sons because they've got this father figure missing. My son is probably as emotionally intelligent as I am, bless him. I think the like business has to be boring and beige. I've been trying to
Mm,
smash that ever since I got on LinkedIn because I refuse to do business in a boring way. My team are all people that I have the most fun with, and I don't have to nag them or get cross with them. I'm the opposite of a micromanager. I'm like the anti micromanager. I'm just like, yeah, cool, that needs doing. You crack on, let me know when it's done. And it's, like, trust people to do what they're good at. I hope
mm.
people don't think I'm a dumb blonde. So that would be,
Well,
that's hopefully I've broken that one. And yeah, obviously the way I look has always been, it's been a great marketing tactic. Certainly not why I started getting tattooed all those years ago. But I think that taboo is definitely the needle's moved on that. Like, people are not so quick to judge. Tattoos are so much more common. Still get a bit of pushback from Americans mostly that are a bit more conservative still. But
really?
yeah, if it is going to be from someone, it
Mm,
will usually be almost exclusively these days, a conservative American that
right.
thinks that still is sort of stuck in that you need to wear a shirt and tie for work and tattoos are unprofessional and unladylike and all that. I'm like, back off. I don't care about being ladylike. I don't want to work with you.
Yeah.
Right.
Obviously not your person then.
um,
Definitely not your person.
yeah, I don't really go out consciously to break
Sure.
like, oh, that's a stereotype. Right. I'm going to break that one. But I think just by being myself, I think I've broken down.
Owning who you
There's
are.
always
Yeah.
can't have it all as a woman. If you want to be a mum, you can't have a good career as well. And I'm like,
Sure.
well, I'm
Let
I'm
let
doing
me show
both.
you. Let me show you.
Yeah, yeah, that's it, isn't it? It's that is it that sort of fuck you attitude. Like, don't tell me what I can't do because I'm just going to go and do it. And that's me to a T, really.
Yeah. And you too, T, in speaking up, and that's, as I mentioned right in the beginning, is something I like to see specifically with people who do have big followings online. I mean, you have a profile that what you do call people out, and is it something that again comes from the gut when you see an injustice or you see something that's been stated that's kind of sort of very a fuckwit comment, I'm just gonna say it, and I don't mean it in a rude way, I'm just being very honest. It's like, what
Yeah.
compels you to speak up on it?
I think sometimes I'm reticent because I know that because of the big following that it's going to
Mm,
garner a lot of attention onto that post. And
yeah,
if it's someone just being outright hateful, I don't want to comment on it because I don't think it deserves any more attention. So
yeah,
actually by me commenting and opposing it, it's going to get so much more attention, which potentially means that the people that's about that will be offended may be triggered and upset by it. So I sort of
yeah,
like, when it's just someone being an absolute, off deliberately offensive idiot, I just
yeah,
ignore that. I very, very rarely see that on LinkedIn anymore. But like the one that you mentioned earlier, where it was someone who just completely misunderstood what
yeah,
privilege means and had
yeah,
been deeply offended by the use of the word in relation to him. And the whole thread, the whole comment section, I was just like, these people just don't understand what the meaning of it is in this context. So I politely,
you are.
and then my comment brought masses of attention, which caused people to go through his content, and it became quite obvious it was also very transphobic. And
Yes.
that led to even more comments when people had figured that out from other things that he'd said. It's like, oh, so it became this
Right.
big thing. And I think I try and be as respectful as possible, but there's a point where I have to step away because I'm like, this is actually
Yeah,
annoying me now. This is making me angry because they're not listening and
yeah,
you're banging your head against a brick wall and you have to just choose peace. But
yeah,
I do have to pick my battles because I am aware that my words, when I leave a comment, it can boost that post visibility significantly. And I don't want pile on where it becomes like a witch hunt of people
yes,
going at somebody. And so I do have to be very careful with if I'm going to get involved in this conversation because I gut feeling says I need to, then I have to be very diplomatic with
yeah,
how I word it and not incite a bullying riot because
Sure.
that's not ever going to help someone to learn and be better.
I thought that you handled the words that you use, your approach was, in fact, I wouldn't even use the word polite. I thought it was very clear, and the
Mm.
perspective that you were giving was powerful. And for someone who is not white and doesn't have white privilege, obviously, because I'm not white, I felt immediately, and so many of the comments that came after that, I felt like, yeah, I felt seen, I felt heard, and I felt protected as not being a white privileged person. And I do find that I think it's very important for us living in this world where we are on social media and we are sharing how we feel. And the guy was just sharing what he felt, right? Is that we have to be open to people giving us another version of the truth, right? A version of the truth where we're not blindsided. And rather than kind of jump to the defense, which is, I guess, very normal, we want to defend what our point of view is kind of just to take a moment and kind of say, well, let me really hear what they're saying. So I didn't really follow the thread all the way after a while. I mean, I left a comment as
I
well.
had to turn notifications off because it was too
Yeah,
distracting.
I stopped after a while, but yeah, I just wanted to ask you that question because, yeah, like I said, someone with a big following, you do have to be. I imagine you do have to be so mindful because it can be counterproductive in the sense that
Yeah,
you're
because
bringing more attention to.
yeah, I've seen people like tag me in posts before, and I've offered an alternative point of view, and
Mm,
people have. There are a few people that are quite sort of sycophantic, and they will literally just support anything that I say because it's me that said it. And I don't
right.
like me. That's
Yeah.
not like, don't just support me because it's me. Support
Yeah.
me because you agree or you have the same opinion
Yeah.
or some connection with what I'm saying. But it has happened in the past where I have said something as just like a flippant offhand comment
Yeah.
in response to something, and then there's been a huge pile on, and it looks to other people, it looks like I've got some sort of like little
Mm,
gang that are attacking people that I disagree with. And I'm like, I have nothing to do with this. This is just my comment has put it onto their feed and they're
yeah.
jumping on of their own volition. I don't
Yeah.
ever want it's like a kind of like
Yeah.
attacks on any kind of person because that's not who I am. My opinions are my opinions, but don't just support me blindly.
Yeah.
So yeah, bit tricky sometimes.
Well, thank you. Thanks for answering that question. One last thing. I keep saying last thing. I know I'm being very
I
greedy
know I was
now.
gonna say I've got a call in 10 minutes.
Okay. Okay. I promise. I promise. I only have 10 more questions now. I promise. Just two. Two. What is the favorite thing behind you on your shelf there? Which is your favorite
Oh,
ornament back?
do you know what? Now the logo is out of date since we had the rebranding, but one of the
Oh,
HOLT members, Michelle Hartley, her mum crocheted this little frog, and it's backwards, but it has the original HOLT logo on it. And
oh
how
my God,
cute
it's
is it?
crocheted. I love it.
Yeah, she's crocheted it, and it's got a little button on its butt that says "It's lost" and that.
So is that going to
Well,
be part of your merchandising?
no, sadly not. I wish it could be, but I don't think she's equipped to produce at scale, unfortunately. And
Right.
this logo behind me is getting replaced with a whole logo at some point soon as well.
Okay. And I've asked you this question before. If you were a song, what song would you be? And no worries if nothing shows up.
Well, I don't
Some people have
know.
one, some people don't.
I that's a
Just right now in this moment, if you were a song, what song would you be?
right now. There's a song by Frank Turner, and I can't remember what the name of it is, but I'm gonna have to send it to you. I can't even remember the lyric, but it makes me happy every single time. I mean, all of his songs are fantastic, but that particular one makes me happy every time. So I'm gonna have to send it to you. People are gonna have to check the comments for
Okay.
the song because I can't think of
Perfect.
what it's called.
Perfect. Okay. One thing you'd like to leave our listeners today.
Sorry.
21 thing that you'd like to leave for our listeners today, our viewers today.
Don't be a dick. It's the only rule you need in life. Yeah. It's key to
Okay. Thank you so much for saying
It's been a
yes and
pleasure.
being on the podcast. I've loved having you. I'd love to invite you back already because I'm just a greedy person. If you're watching, all the information you could ever want and desire is going to be in the comments. The HOLT, you have to check it out. Vault, check it out. Podcast, just check everything out. You won't regret it. And all I can say is just it's been an absolute pleasure having you. I can't wait to see you again in the UK. And all the best for this year with
Thanks
everything
to
that you
you.
do. Keep sprinkling that no dick attitude and that generous heart and bubbling personality you have. You're a true gift to the world. Thank you so much, Leah.
Thank you, Melissa.